Hello everyone, welcome to Zoho Sheet's webinar. This is Jaya Shankari, and in today's video we'll be looking at how we can visualize data trends and forecast future values using the various features in Zoho Sheet. So let's get started. So this will be the agenda for the session. So first we'll be looking at an introduction about the topics for the session, that is visualizing data trends and forecasting data. And then we'll be looking at a demonstration where I'll be showing you how the various features in Zoho Sheet can be used to achieve the same. So data trends are nothing but the change in the values over a period of time. And these are some of the features in Zoho Sheet that you can use in order to visualize these data trends or patterns. That is color scales, that is a type of conditional formatting. And then we have the Sparklines, which is the in-cell or cell level graphs. And then we have the trend lines that can be drawn over the graph in order to study the graph properly. And then we have forecasting data. Forecasting data is nothing but predicting future values from the given data set that we have. So in Zoho Sheet, you can use the forecast function in order to achieve the same. And this forecasting can also be done for various domains, for example, sales, revenue, user interactions, etc. So now we'll jump into the demonstration where I'll be showing you how to use these various features in Zoho Sheet in order to visualize data trends and forecast data. So this is the spreadsheet I'll be using for the demonstration. So as you can see, I have 3 different worksheets using which I will be showing the various features which we can use to visualize the data trends as well as forecast future values. So first here in this worksheet, we have the daily sales data. So you can see the first column containing the dates and the second column having the sales values. So this data goes till the month of September, as you can see here. Whereas I have only filled the date for the remaining months and I haven't filled the sales values for those months. So now we'll be seeing how to forecast the sales values for these dates later on. Now first we'll see how we can visualize the data that we already have at hand. So when you have such a huge data, it is really difficult to see how the data is actually changing. So here it is difficult for me to see how the actual sales have been changing every day over the past months. So now I'll be using charts in order to visualize the data we have here. So let's see how we can do that. So first we'll have to select the desired data for which we want to draw the chart for. So for that, I'll select only till the date where I have the sales values. So once you've selected the desired source range, you can either go to the insert menu and choose chart, or you can use the chart icon here in the toolbar. So here you can either choose from the recommended chart types, or if you have a chart type in mind, you can go straight to the chart type. So here I'm going to insert a line chart. So here you can see the line chart being inserted into the sheet. So here, though I have the line graph here, I'm not able to exactly see the changes that are happening to the sales data at a glance. Here you can see there are a lot of fluctuations in the daily sales values. So I'll have to spend a lot of time in order to actually read this graph and all the fluctuations and see how the data or the sales has actually changed over the past months. So in order to make it a little more clear as to how the data has changed over the past months, we can use a feature called trend lines. Before we insert a trend line, I'm just going to make small tweaks to this chart. So first here on the right, I'm going to uncheck this option called auto expand. So what this option does is that it appends those data that get added after the source range that you've selected automatically to the chart. So here I'll be actually forecasting or predicting future values for the other months that we have in the data, and I do not want those forecasted values or predicted values to be included in my chart. So I'm just going to uncheck this option called auto expand. So now I'm just going to make a small tweak to the chart title, and now we'll insert the trend line. So here for that you can go to series and you can find an option called trend line. Just click on that, and once you click on the trend line, you can see a dotted line here being inserted in the line graph. So I'm just going to change the color of this trend line to make it a little more clear. So I'll give it a bright red color. So now we can see the trend line even more clearly. So by default, you can see that the linear trend line is being inserted into the line graph, but here on the right you can see a drop down that shows the various types of trend lines that you can choose from based on the graph that you have. So here in this line graph, since we have a lot of fluctuations, so we'll go with the polynomial trend line. Once you select a polynomial trend line, you can see another option being displayed here called degree. So you can select the degree of your polynomial trend line based on the number of hills and drops you have in your graph. So here you can see that the degree 2 is actually not making justice for this particular chart we have. So here I'm going to choose a degree that is 5 here. Again, the degree will be based on the number of hills you have in your graph. So now you can see that the trend line clearly shows me how the data or the sales has changed over the past months. So here, in the beginning of the year, it started increasing and then there was a small decline and then there's a gradual increase, and by the end of September, the sales has gone up. So this way you can use trend lines in your data in order to know how your data has actually changed over a period of time. So now we'll draw another graph for the same source range we have here. So I'll just keep the cell selection here and I'll go to insert chart, and now I'll choose a column chart. So we've got the column chart representing the daily sales here. So what I want this chart to actually represent is that I want this chart to give me the average sales that happens in each day of the week. That is, I want to know the average sales that happens on Monday or Tuesday or the other days of the week. So for that, I'll be using a feature called aggregation. So here in the side panel, you can find an option called aggregation. So aggregation is nothing but the option using which you can consolidate the data that you have in your chart. So first you can see an option called operation, that is the operation using which you want to consolidate the data by. So here, as I said, I want the average sales value to be indicated using this chart. So I'll give the operation as average. Followed by that, you can see the value. So this will be the value on which the operation will be performed and the chart will be consolidated by. So that will be sales here. So once I select sales on the left, you can see that the complete average sales value is being shown here. But I want the average sales value to be shown for each day of the week. So for that, here you can see an option called axis. So I will select the axis to be date. And once you select date, you can see a small calendar icon being shown here. So once you click that, it will give you the options using which you can consolidate the chart by. So here you can either consolidate based on the year, quarter, month, etc. So I will be choosing the day of week as the option here. So now you can see that on the left, the average sales value is being shown for each day of the week. So you can see the sales value for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. So here, as you can see, there's only a slight difference between the average sales that is happening on each day. So now if I actually want to see the values each column is actually representing in this particular chart, I can make use of the option called data label. So here, I'll just make a small change to the chart title again. And then we'll insert the data label. So I want the data label to show the value each column is representing. So I'll choose show value, and you can see the values being shown on top of each column. There's another option in Zoho Sheet where you can actually choose the position of the data label in your chart. So here you can see for column chart, there are 4 different options being shown. So these options will actually change based on the type of chart that you are using. So here, just for example, I'm just going to choose the value called inside end. So once I choose that option, you can see on the left that the values are now being shown inside each column. So this way you can actually choose the desired position of the data label that you want. So this way you can make use of the various chart types that we have in Zoho Sheet, as well as the various customization options that are provided for charts such as aggregation or trend lines or data labels, etc., to study how the data has actually changed over the period of time. So now that we have seen how we can use charts to actually study the daily sales data that we have at hand, let's start predicting the sales value for the rest of the months. So here, as I had previously shown, I've filled in the date values, whereas I've left the sales values blank here. So we are going to predict or forecast the sales values for these particular dates that we have. So for this, we will be using the forecast function that is given by Zoho Sheet. So for using any predefined function, you can simply start with an equal sign and start typing in the function's name. So you can see the suggestion being shown below. So once you click on that, you can see the syntax of that particular function that you're using. So here you can see the syntax of the forecast function. So first we'll have to give the new x value, which is the new date value for which you are predicting the sales value here. And then we have the y values, which are nothing but the sales values we have here for the past months. And then the known x values, that will be the dates for the corresponding sales values. So now the new x value will be the date I have here in this cell. The y values will be the sales data I have here. And my x values will be the corresponding dates. So now before I submit the function, I'm going to make one small change here. After submitting the function for this particular cell, I will be using fill series in order to fill the function for the rest of the cells here. So even when I fill this particular formula for the rest of the dates that I have, I do not want the forecasted or the predicted values to be taken into calculation in order to find the values for the other dates. So I want only the known values or the known sales I have here to be taken into calculation. So for that, I will be making the cell range here into absolute values. So this cell range won't change even when I perform fill series. So I'll be adding a dollar sign in front of the row numbers so that this remains constant. So there we go. So now I'll submit the function, and here now you can see that we have got a predicted or a forecasted sales value here in terms of $14,000. You can see the formula being shown in the FX bar above, and you can see the result value being shown here. So this way you can actually predict values based on the present or the real data set that you have at hand. So now for the rest of the cells, I'm just going to fill it. So for that, you can simply place the cursor on the small square you can see here in the cell selection and simply double click. And there we go. So now you can see that the predicted sales values for each date is being displayed here. So you can see that it goes on till 15,000. So this way you can estimate or predict the future values of sales or inventories or any other data set that you have based on the real data set that you have over a period of time. So now we'll move to the next worksheet where I'll be showing you how we can visualize another set of data using Sparklines. So in this worksheet too, we have sales data, but the difference here is that here we have the monthly sales data over the past 5 years being shown here. So you can see the months listed and then the sales values from 2015 to 2019. So here we are going to use Sparkline in order to actually see how the data has changed or the sales has changed for each month over the past 5 years or for all the months in each year. So first we'll see how we can compare the sales for each month over the past 5 years. For example, I want to see how the sales has been for the month of January from the year 2015 to 2019. So Sparklines, as I said previously, are nothing but in-cell graphs that you can use in order to visualize the data changes right alongside the actual data that you have. In order to insert a Sparkline, all you have to do is just go to Insert menu, and you will find an option called Sparkline and just click on Create. So here for the source range, you'll have to select the data for which you want to draw the Sparkline for, and the destination will actually decide how the Sparkline has to be drawn. So here my destination range will be in the G column because I want each Sparkline to be drawn based on the row values here. So for that, I'll select the destination here and I'll click on OK. So there we go. So you can see the Sparklines being shown here. So for each Sparkline, you can see the source range highlighted in red, and you can see that by default the line graph is being shown. So now I can easily see how the sales has changed for each month over the past 5 years. Now let's see how we can customize the Sparklines that we have here. So on the right, first you can see the types of Sparklines available. So in Zoho Sheet, you have 3 types of Sparklines you can choose from. One is line, and then we have column as well as the win-loss sparklines. And you can also choose the color of the sparkline that is being shown. And apart from that, you can also choose to highlight the points or the values that are present in the sparkline. For example, the first value or the highest value, the lowest value or the last value, etc. Even negative values can be highlighted. And for line graph, you can also choose to highlight markers. So when I check markers on the left, you can see the points being highlighted with the marker or the dot. And I'm going to also highlight the highest point with green and the lowest point as well. I'm just going to change the color of the lowest point to red to make it a little more easily visible. So here I'll show you how the graph has changed now. So here you can see the red points. I'll just zoom in a little bit. So now here in each sparkline you can see the highest value being shown with the green dot and the lowest value being shown with the red dot, and the other points are shown with the blue marker. So you can customize these points or markers based on how you want your sparkline to be displayed and which values you want to be highlighted. After those customizations, you can see an option called show empty cells. In case you have some empty cells in your data, you can customize or choose how those empty cells must be handled in the sparkline. And you can also choose whether you want to include the hidden rows or columns that are present in your sheet as well. And apart from these customizations, you can also customize the horizontal and vertical axis that is present in the sparkline. So you can also choose to display the axis if it is not clear for you, and you can also choose to reverse the direction of the sparkline graph. And for vertical axis, you can see the various options using which you can customize the scaling of the sparklines as well. So I will be showing how we can set a custom value in the next sparkline. So for this sparkline, we'll just close the customization tab. Using each sparkline in these cells, I can easily see how the sales has changed over the past 5 years for each month. So now we'll see how we can use Sparklines in order to see how the sales has changed for each year over the 12 months. So the steps are going to be similar to what we did previously. Go to insert, create. The source range will be the exact same range we used previously, whereas here the destination will be in the row 18. So here each sparkline will be drawn based on the values in each column. Now click on OK. So as you can see, by default the line graph is being drawn, but here for this data I want column sparklines to be used, so I can simply change it to column. So here now, though we have the column sparkline, you can see some blank areas here, that is where the columns are not being shown. By default, the minimum value in each sparkline will be taken as the baseline for that particular sparkline. That is why you are not able to see one column in each sparkline here, because the minimum value or the least value is taken as the baseline here. So now I do not want that to happen. I want all the columns to be shown for me so that I can compare between those columns, as well as I want to compare between each sparkline. Here for each sparkline the base value is different, so I will not be able to compare between each sparkline here or each year here. So now I'm just going to make a customization for the vertical axis in such a way that I can view all the columns as well as I can compare between each sparkline here. So for that, here under vertical axis you can see an option called custom value. So here you can either choose the baseline or the minimum value to be same for all sparklines, or you can give a custom value. So here I'm going to give a custom value. I'll give 0 here. So once I give 0 as the baseline, now on the left you can see all the columns are being shown, and you can see that it is easier to compare between each year or each sparkline as well. Now we'll make some customizations to highlight the maximum or the highest value in the sparkline. So here you can see that the highest value is being highlighted in green. So now that we have actually customized the sparkline, I'll show you how we can further customize this particular cell range in order to make it visually appealing and also more contextual. So when you have sparklines over a cell range, you can also apply the cell formatting styles, or you can even enter text into those cells in order to make it a little more visually appealing or contextual. So here I'll show you how we can do that. Just select the desired cell range containing sparklines, and then here I'm going to change the background color of this particular cell range. So I'm going to choose a dark gray shade. So here you can see the dark gray shade being shown as the cell's background. So this is kind of uplifting the columns that we had in the sparklines, so it makes it a little more visually better. So now I'll be adding some text into these cells in order to make it a little more contextual. So I'll be adding the year for each cell. By default, the font color will be black, so it might be a little difficult for you to view it right now. So I've actually entered the year for each sparkline here. Since the font color is black, you may not be able to see it clearly. So now I'll just change the font color so that it becomes clearly visible. I'll change it to white. So now you can clearly see the year for each sparkline that I've added. So now I'm just going to further customize this particular text that we have in this cell range. I'll reduce the font size and change the alignment. So even if you have the sparkline further away from your data range, you can actually know what it represents. So this way you can customize your sparklines as well as the cells that you have the sparklines in order to make them more visually appealing and contextual. So this is how you can use sparklines in order to study the data changes or patterns that you have in your spreadsheet. So now let's move on to the third worksheet, where I'll be showing you how we can use color scales in order to study the data changes. So here in this worksheet, you can see that I have a marketing data set. So on the first column, we have the months, and then we have the number of impressions, we have page views, signups, and the conversion rate. So now I can actually use color scales on any of the data values that we have here. That is in order to view the changes that have happened over these months. So now I'll be using the color scales on the sign up values in order to see how the sign up values have actually changed over the months. So for that, in order to use color scales, you can simply choose the desired data range and go to format, and under conditional formatting, you can see the three different types of conditional formatting that are provided by Zoho Sheet. That is classic, color scale, and icon set. So now we will be using the color scale option. If you would like to know more about all the conditional formatting options and the customizations provided by Zoho Sheet, you can take a look at our recorded webinar videos, link in the description below. So now we'll go to the color scale option. So once I hover over the color scale option, you can see the various color scales being shown here. And there are two different types of color scales that you can see here. So one is the 2 color shade and the other is the 3 color shade. So 2 color shades can be used when all the values are mostly positive and the difference between these values are less. And the 3 color scale can be used when you have negative as well as positive values, so that the differentiation will be even more better. Since our data set has only positive values and the difference between them is less, I'll be going with the 2 shade or the 2 color scale. So now I'm going to choose the white to green color scale. So this means that the lowest value will be represented with the white shade, whereas the highest value will be represented with the darkest green shade here in the color scale. So once I click on that, now you can see that each shade has been given based on the value that is present in this particular cell range. So now I can easily see that the lowest sign up has happened in the month of September, and the highest sign up I've got is in the month of January. And I can also see how the data or the sign up has changed. So you can see a slight decrease from January, and then after April you can see a slight increase, and then in September it was the lowest, and then it increased again from October. So this way you can actually see or study the data changes or pattern you have in your data set easily using color scales. So in this video we saw how we can use the various options in charts, that is aggregation and trend lines. We saw how we can use sparklines, and also we saw how we can use color scales in order to study the data trends or the data changes that we have in the spreadsheet. And we also saw how we can use the forecast function in order to predict the future values based on the current value that we have at hand. So hope you all found this useful. Do try out these features in your spreadsheet and let us know how helpful they were. Hope you all found this session helpful. Do try out these features in your spreadsheet and let us know how useful they were. And if you have any questions or feedback about Zoho Sheet, you can drop us an email at support@zohosheet.com and we'll be here happy to help you out. And if you have any feedback about this video, do drop them as comments below. You can also check out our previous webinar videos using the recorded webinar videos link in the description below. Thank you again for watching the video. See you in the next session.